Well, Sarah and I went to see The Help Friday night, and at the end of that wonderful movie, I said, Brother Rich, you need to scrap your sermon and rewrite it. But I didn't do that yesterday. I didn't feel like laboring at the computer again for another sermon. Instead, I ran a half marathon, and then I painted one of the daughter's bedrooms, and then drove up here. So it was a day of different type of labor. Labor Day traditionally marks the end of summer. Hoorah, hoorah. When I was in school, it was the last weekend of summer. My school district started the Tuesday after Labor Day, and that is right and proper. Except now that I'm a parent, it is absolutely wonderful to have the children in school in August. I enjoy that. Labor Day weekend also marks the beginning of the NFL season. Preseason comes to a close, and then the real stuff, the real practice begins this week. Weekend when weekend warriors do hard labor for wages starting at the league minimum of $375,000, not bad, to Peyton Manning's $23 million, even more not bad. I made $21,000 in my first job after graduating from DePauw University. I thought I had it made on LaSalle Street, working at the corner of LaSalle Street and Madison Avenue at the old gray lady in the Northern Trust Bank. Today, adjusting for inflation, I don't make much more than that, believe it or not. In Thursday's New York Times, the quotation of the day came from Stephanie Morales. She said, "You don't expect someone who just graduated from 4 years in Ivy League schools to be on food stamps." Morales is a 2009 graduate of Dartmouth College who is now waiting tables in Weehawken, New Jersey for $2.17 an hour plus tips. I suppose she should be grateful that she at least has a job in today's economy where, no job change in August, unemployment still stands at 9.1%, at least of those who are willing to be counted. It's much higher for folks who have just left the job search altogether. Did you know that Labor Day became a holiday when? In 1894, when, following the deaths of a number of workers at the hands of the U.S. military and U.S. Marshals during the Pullman strike, President Grover Cleveland put reconciliation with the labor movement as his top priority, beginning with Labor Day holiday. It took many more decades before the labor movement became institutionalized and supported in what we now know as the modern labor movement. Labor Day, though, is more than just about labor unions. It's a recognition of all who labor to make a living. Although the reality of today's economic environment is probably more reflective of those who are standing around idly in the workplace at 5 p.m. looking for work. Well, in less than 3 weeks, I joined those folks who are unemployed, and I can't wait. It goes with the territory in interim pastoral work. I've been unemployed before, so why not again? I have been fortunate in my life of labor. I've lived out this enigmatic parable of Jesus. Sometimes I've been hired right away, my fingers are crossed for my next position starting as soon as possible. Other times I've stood idle in the marketplace for an hour or 3 or 6, waiting for a landowner to eventually hire me. I grew up in the world of work. My first jobs were cutting lawns in the summer and shoveling driveways in the winter. In the neighborhood I live in now, my kids are not so lucky for such easy employment. Why? Because lawn and snow removal services fill go spend it all on baseball cards in the summer and football cards in the winter. It wasn't until I went to the golf course in junior high school when I began to grumble. And it wasn't because of bad golf shots. The labor of caddying introduced me for the first time to disparate or uneven wages. There were B caddies and A caddies and gold caddies. A caddies made about $2 more than B caddies, and gold caddies made the most. But that wasn't what I grumbled about. I understood at that young age that the more experienced you were, then the more you should and would get paid. It's the way the economic system works. And we learn it at a young age, right? The laborers in Jesus' parable know the same thing. Hey, wait a minute. They grumble. They get the same wage as the last laborers hired. Well, my grumbling as a caddy began after the members had putted out on the 18th green. The caddies for a particular foursome would be waiting patiently off to the side of the green, watching the members try to one-putt or two-putt what was a very treacherous green. And we tried to do our best not to chuckle when Mr. So-and-so four-putted. I would take the putter of Mr. So-and-so after he fumed off the green, after he ruined a perfectly fine round. And I'd put the putter in his bag, and then I would hand him my caddy card. And Mr. So-and-so would sign the card as verification that, yes, Eric Brotherage had indeed caddied 18 holes for him. And then the moment would come, sort of appears, he would write on the card, his little box, tip. Tuesdays were good days for me. I had two members that always requested my services. At 1 p.m., I caddied for Mr. B. He was the club champion for many years running. At 1 p.m., I'd get the call, grab his bag, run up to the first tee, and we would start. I didn't have to do much work as a caddy other than carry his bag. Mr. B already knew the course from every possible lie, so I didn't need to tell him yardage or confer with him on club. He was a scratch golfer. He didn't hit any errant shots that required me to go wandering off into the woods to find the ball. Mr. B was also a lot of fun to caddy for. He was boisterous. He was funny. He was engaging, joking. Really enjoyed having a good time on the golf course. It was a joy to be in his presence. Mr. B was also a very wealthy man. At the end of my Tuesday round with him, my caddy card always carried a $20 tip. And this was 1979, 80. With the $18 the club paid me as a gold caddy, yes, I made that verified error as a caddy, $38 wasn't bad for 4 to 5 hours work. Tuesday's morning round couldn't have been more different. Mr. S was always the first one off the tee at daybreak. He golfed alone. He didn't golf well. He couldn't even see very well. He couldn't walk very well. This was a club where carts were banned. It was all walking. Well, you know golf. He didn't talk at all. Our morning round together was one of the strangest few hours of my young life. And boy, did I work for Mr. S. Mr. S had an oversized golf bag that, in my mind, was bigger than the one Rodney Dangerfield had in Caddyshack, if you're familiar with that scene. Why did he have such a huge bag and all of these clubs when he couldn't golf? All he used was a driver, a ginty wood, and a putter. We wandered each hole from left to right, across every fairway and back again. We made frequent trips into the rough, circling each other in some strange caddy member dance until we eventually circled in upon where his ball really was. The truth is, folks, I can't follow a golf ball either. And with Mr. S not being able to see, boy, we had fun. I made even more frequent trips into the woods to find his ball. Mr. S wouldn't let me stop looking until I found his ball. Or, if not his ball, then another ball to replace the ball he just lost. At the end of my Tuesday round with him, my caddy card always carried a $2 tip. $20 total for 18 holes on Tuesday morning. Here's the biggest irony about this. Mr. S was an economist at the University of Chicago. Mr. S was a Nobel Prize winning economist at the University of Chicago. What was I to make of this? A $2 tip from a Nobel economist? And a $20 tip from Mr. D? I suppose I should have just slept in on Tuesdays and done only one round. I find it deeply ironic that I majored in economics at DePaul University. Not to become a Nobel winner like Mr. S, but to make lots of money like Mr. B. So that when I skipped work in the afternoon on Tuesday, I could afford a $20 tip for my caddy. I can imagine the outrage in the caddy shack if the following pay policy was posted. Starting today, all caddies, B, A, and Gold, will make $18 for 18 holes. Also, all members have been instructed to give caddies $2 tips. Even if on every hole you go wandering in the woods to look for errant shots. And then in the fine print at the bottom are these words. The club members have graciously agreed to provide sunscreen and poison ivy protection free of charge.